بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد عن عائشة رضي الله عنها أن يهود أتوا النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقالوا السلام عليكم فقالت عائشة عليكم ولعنكم الله وغضب الله عليكم قال مهلا يا عائشة عليك بالرفق وإياك والعنف والفحش قالت أولم تسمع ما قالوا قال قال أولم تسمعي ما قلت ورددت عليهم فيستجاب لي فيهم ولا يستجاب لهم في رواه البخاري. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها أن يهود أتوا النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقالوا السلام عليكم فقالت عائشة عليكم ولعنكم الله وغضب الله عليكم قال مهلا يا عائشة عليك بالرفق وإياك والعنف والفحش قالت أولم تسمع ما قالوا قال أولم تسمعي ما قلت رددت عليهم فيستجاب لي فيهم ولا يستجاب لهم في. Khadija, back here. Aisha radiallahu anha narrates that some Jews came to see Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and said, Assalamu alaikum, meaning death be upon you. Aisha radiallahu anha countered, Upon you it be, and Allah's curse be upon you, and Allah's wrath be upon you. He said, Behold, O Aisha, keep to kindness, and avoid harshness and indecency. She asked, Did you not hear what they said? He said, Did you not hear how I replied? He had replied, Wa alaikum, and upon you. The same upon you. My prayers against them will be accepted, and theirs against me will not be accepted. Aisha radiallahu anha narrates that some Jews came to see Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and said, Assalamu alaikum, death be upon you. Aisha radiallahu anha replied, Upon you it be, and Allah's curse be upon you, and Allah's wrath be upon you. He said, Behold, O Aisha, keep to kindness and avoid harshness and indecency. She asked, Did you not hear what they said? He said, Did you not hear how I replied? The same upon you. My prayers against them will be accepted, and theirs against me will not be accepted. Yeah. عن صهيب رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عجبا لأمر المؤمن إن أمره كله له خير وليس ذلك لأحد إلا للمؤمن إن أصابته سراء شكر فكان خيرا له وإن أصابته ضراء صبر فكان خيرا له رواه مسلم. Suhaib radiallahu anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, It is remarkable that everything turns out well for a believer. That applies only to a believer. If happiness befalls him, he is thankful, and it turns out well for him. And if misfortune befalls him, he shows endurance, and it turns out well for him. Suhaib radiallahu anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, It is remarkable that everything turns out well for a believer. And that applies only to a believer. If happiness befalls him, he is thankful, and it turns out well for him. And if misfortune befalls him, he shows endurance, and it turns out well for him. Respected brothers, elders, we see the conduct of the believer. These ahadith come in the chapter of Iqra al-Muslim under the subheading of excellence of conduct. How Aisha radiallahu anha, she replied, it was a knee-jerk reaction that someone's insulting, someone's bringing this Bad-dua, this curse against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May death be upon you. So how she gets angry? She's not happy about it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells her, take it easy, don't worry about it. So avoid indecency. Even though others are acting indecently with you, they're acting bad to you. But do not fall into the trap. Do not stoop down to their level. Look, whatever people do, they're behaving at their level. And when you behave well, you're behaving at your level. Deen demands a certain level of conduct from us. It demands that we should behave well, even if others are not behaving well with us. So we should never lose our principles. We should never lose our perspective of who we are. Others might fall to indecency. They might stoop to a very low level, mudslinging, low blows. Gee, what does mudslinging mean? It means talking bad about each other when the topic is not about each other. Like say that I have a disagreement with someone about, which what books we should be teaching in which book we should be doing Taleem out of. He says we should do Taleem out of Muntakhaba Hadith, and I say we should do out of Fadail Amal. So what are we discussing? Which book we should do Taleem out of, right? Then I say, oh, you're so bad. You're like this, and you're like that, and you're like this, and you're like that, and you don't brush your teeth in the morning, and you have stinky feet. Well, this is why we're going to listen to my opinion. Like, what's the connection? Why are you bringing that up? Why? Okay, maybe I don't brush my teeth in the morning, and maybe I have stinky breath. But what does that have to do with which book we should do Taleem out of? Samajh. So when they start attacking each other, this is called mudsling. So when the people who are low-minded, something doesn't go their way, then they start attacking the other people. Oh, he's like this, he's like that, he's like this, he's like that. He doesn't brush his teeth, and he drives bad, and he has a dirty car, and his shoes are smelly. Like, okay, okay, very good. So we shouldn't fall into that because this is not our level. Deen tells us that we should behave in a respectable way with people. So much good. So even with people who are being outright bad with us, you know, one thing is, you're letting yourself get slapped around. But another thing, if it's just words against you, yeah, whatever. It doesn't lower your status. Rather, your high reply and your respectable and honorable reply, establishes your status, that you are someone of respect, because you're not stooping down to their level. So that was one thing. And the second hadith. What was the second hadith we had read? सब लोग भूल गए हैं? Everybody forgot. Everybody forgot. Not good. Not good. And Aisha radiallahu anha was the first one. Where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said something. बहुत अच्छी बात. जी. Acha, you thought that's what it was, huh? Acha, Khadija had a very good understanding of mudslinging, mashallah. So, anyways, it slips in my mind what that hadith was. Hmm. Acha. Acha. Okay, and the second one was about the conditions of the believer, that there's always good in it. Gee, so this is a condition of the believer that no matter how people act with them, no matter what's going on in the world, every believer will always find good in his condition. Rather, every condition is an opportunity for him to get closer to Allah. This is always an opportunity for him to gain nearness to Allah. And this is exclusively for the believer, because if he's in a hard condition, he makes sabr, he gets closer to Allah. If he's in a good condition, he thanks Allah, he gets closer to Allah. So the condition in itself is not a sign of a success or a failure. It is what it is. But how a person reacts to those conditions, does he resort to indecency? Does he start, becoming vile? Does he go towards disobedience to Allah? Or does he remain respectable in his behavior? Does he remain within the limits and the confines what Allah has demanded from him? Gee. What does vile mean? It means bad. So, this is something that, it's relevant to what we're seeing in the world today. That a person, he protects himself to that extent which Deen has demanded from him, yes. But a person, you see all sorts of, foolish things that, A has done bad to B, so now B starts insulting C. So, it doesn't make sense. You know, it's a much bigger discussion. But bottom line is we should be respectable. We should remain respectable. Our actions should remain respectable, even though others are not, respectable. They're not behaving in a respectable manner. And we see this from the actions with what happened with Aisha radiallahu anha. And this is a way for us to gain nearness to Allah. May Allah give me first and all of us the tawfiq to bring it into our lives. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallah bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursalin, alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.